Tacky Talk time, folks. State Representative Tacky Chan of Quincy is joining us again for our weekly podcast updates. Hi, Tacky.
Hey Joe, good to see you. Again, I apologize to the audience. I still am this chest cold and a bit of postnasal drip, so my voice may go, and you might catch a cough or two. And
No, I edited those out last week, so nobody knew the better.
okay. So you are all saved by Joe. Watch listening to me gag every so often as I exhaust my throat and zipping a lot of tea through the day.
Yes, you sound better already, so we're hoping for continued recovery for sure. But it hasn't slowed you down, I know.
No, I've been busy. I've been at State House quite a few days actually, and I also been working from home yesterday and today. Also, as guys can imagine, getting a bit of rest because taking meetings in person. We had an executive session, had a House Asian Caucus meeting. Obviously, try to work out my schedule in the next 4 weeks or so. Basically, 2 weeks. Planning anything out more than four is actually quite difficult at this stage because we don't know when sessions are. Plus, I might be having bills up for debate as well as trying to get bills out of stage two, so to speak, of the next committee steps. Joint Route 10 was yesterday, which means the committee's had to make some kind of report or recommendation on all bills. So about, over 5,000 bills, give or take, were reported by committee. So it's extremely busy. As you guys have been aware, I've been working my co-chair, John Cronin from Fitchburg. The senator's been wonderful. And, we've adopted a strategy as opposed to doing, a massive dump, so to speak, of 284 bills at the end. We basically we're down to 130. And we've been systematically releasing bills through the course of a year to try to keep the load from getting insane at the end, which was wise move. So it's much more manageable. And I told everybody 20-minute executive session. It was a 20-minute executive session.
Oh, very good. They must have been happy about that, I'm sure. Just stick to the nuts and bolts and move on.
Well, yeah, if we're trying to do 284, it'll probably be a full hour.
Yeah, yeah. Although you found time, I saw your pictures from the House Neck Chili Fest.
Yeah, it was great to get there. Good to see John Keenan and Nota Bona. I was there when they were there. I'm sure other electeds passed through, just timing of when I showed up. It's a great event. Again, those know I can't eat things like soy and corn and tree nuts and stone fruits and a laundry list of other things I can't have. So regretfully, I can't taste anything. Largely fear of potential cross contamination. But it was a fun day, to see the scouts in particular, working pretty hard and a great chance to raise some money for the House Net Congregational Church. And people feel like they like to donate. I know it's tight, times are tough as inflation is coming down, but our pockets are squeezed. Got a couple of pennies here and there. Definitely consider, giving a little bit of money to local charities opposed to national charities because at least you can see where the money goes.
Oh yeah, it goes right back into your community, and you'll be able to see it in your neighbors probably, for that matter.
No, no, absolutely. And there'll be more coming up. I mean, Lincoln Hancock's PTO is going to have a fundraiser in March. So, I mean, that's another school. And there'll be many others as we move into the springtime of organizations coming to life. Again, post-COVID has been, well, COVID part, whatever, has changed how we do events. And there are increasingly more events that are moving into the spring period.
Right. People want to be outdoors as much as possible for a number of reasons. It's just more pleasant, certainly. But yeah, it's for health reasons as well. Hey, I saw you on Channel 5 talking about double utility poles.
Yeah, this comes up every so often on it as a good news hit, so to speak, regarding double poles. As you guys have seen on the street, you got these utility poles where you have one up and the other one kind of up, attached to the other one, sometimes with nothing underneath. And this is not just an eyesore, potential public safety matter over a long period of time. And one of the major challenges is to not necessarily just get the electrical, basically it's electricity in Quincy and a national grid owns the poles. But, to move not just the high power lines at the very top, but also move the lower voltage lines below, which are not regulated by the DPU. So, Verizon under Telecom Act 96 is quasi regulated, but not really regulated. It's kind of a weird situation. Of course, Comcast and other cable companies are not regulated. And of course, the city and other municipalities are not regulated by the state regarding their wires. They have lease agreements. And you have private companies like companies that do alarm services, for example, may have a wire in the pole. So the utility can't move other people's wires. There's enormous liability associated with it. Of course, they're not being paid to do it. So, I propose a bill to create a fine mechanism on a daily basis per pole, per instance, per day, and try to come up with a mechanism to pass those fines down to the other pole entities to get themselves motivated to actually get off the pole.
Yeah. Interestingly, out of that story, it looks like the database that, keeps track of these double polls might not be completely up to date.
Yeah, this is actually now would be a fault of Verizon National Grid, depending where community is, and not actually providing information. One of the things that the utility companies have been doing, and you may not realize this, they're hiring actually more contractors than they do actual National Grid employees to try to keep costs down.
Mm.
So a lot of trucks see how this is National Grid. They may have a other name on the truck on the side because they just put temporary signage up on the truck, basically magnetic signs to say they're grid active at the moment, but the contractors for someone else. During emergency storms, that's not unusual because, during a storm situation, you call in not just, local contractors, but you call in contractors from like everywhere in 6 states, plus, other utilities as far as 12, 14 states if it's a bad storm damage situation, including us. We do send stuff out of state to other states in bad situations. But there's need to be a bigger accountability between the utility and their contractors on getting these numbers straight and then getting them over to DPU. There is a lot of polls. I mean, you guys all know this. It's not like it's a mystery, but it's something that you would expect the companies that have been doing this for well past a century to be able to figure this out, especially with modern technology.
Yeah, you see some of them just as you mentioned, dangling in midair, just held on by, I don't know, metal straps or even looks like, baling wire sometimes just holding it up there. A little scary.
It is, for better or for worse, though. I mean, the newer poles have a lifespan between 50 and 75 years. And
Hmm.
it is not just wood. This is special wood. This is wood that's created by a small number of companies globally that is designed for all weathers, designed for impact. It's extra petrified, for a better term. It's weatherized. It won't bend for long periods, even with the weight of the second pole on there. There is strangely new wood tech. That's why you don't see plastic or metal. It doesn't rust, it doesn't rot easily. It takes, again, it's like 50 to 75 year plus lifespan. And, I am concerned, but, people should also be aware that, all these new poles is literally new technology in wood.
Hmm. Has there ever been an effort to put utilities underground in Massachusetts that you're aware of?
Well, everyone wants them underground until it breaks. Then you got to dig
Yeah.
up the street to find it. I mean, utility underground is often found in places where it doesn't rain a lot, there's no earthquakes, and nothing, and everything is settled, namely flat communities and deserts, right?
Hmm.
But those of us who drive on Massachusetts roads, are pretty aware that they're not level.
No,
So
no cow paths, basically.
yeah, and that means you need underground utilities quite deep from the surface. We do have that going on. We have a transmission line going down from Newport Ave
Mhm.
down Furnace Brook on the way to 3A Southern Artery. And to complete, that's going to probably be completed hopefully by end of this year. That's a deep line.
Mm.
That's a very deep line because if the road settles, it doesn't move. And then you have to have insulation fluid inside of it. So if that thing ever ruptures, you got insulation fluid, which today should be non-toxic, but in the old days, it was basically some type of oily solvent that isn't flammable.
Yeah.
And that could leak into the groundwater and the environment around us. Plus, if it's old metal, it'll have different oxidization. And then you have even have plastic. You still have different impact on the product because this is a contracting, expanding region. So those know what permafrost is, right? Anyone try to stick something in the ground. Of course, this year's warmer than normal. But I mean, you all know when it's wintertime. I mean, as a guy who tried to put signs up for Martha Cookie's campaign for Senate, during Thanksgiving, everything became permafrost, trying to jam signs in the ground. I mean, the ground does contract and expand
Yeah.
in everything around us, which is why you have, gas main breaks, you have water main breaks, or water main leaks if it's not a break. Same thing with sewage. You have not necessarily a break, but you have a leak because of the pressures of contracting, expanding. You may not be aware that, this little tiny trickle's been coming out all over the city. But, you have electrical cable. Well, you're going to know pretty fast.
Hmm. Right.
And same thing of gas. right? You can see the gas coming up and it starts killing all the plants around the gas line, right? You can smell it. So, I mean, same thing electrical. The thing is that, you can't do a bypass wire. So if you have like a wire down here, you can put a bypass wire up temporarily. The grid shuts down that wire, that region, shuts the power off in that geographic zone. And then you go in and you put a bypass power to suck it back up while you deal with the down wires.
Yeah.
Now you have this part of the country is, not like to say you can't do it, but you'd have to dig it up. I mean, there was a water main break more than a few years back now, several years back in Boston, where a wire conduit was flooded out. NSTAR, the old Boston Edison way back in the day, had to go in, cut the power, and pump everything out. It's weak.
Right. Yeah. Whereas if it were above ground, you can fix it in, a couple hours.
Yeah. So, I mean, I understand the unsightly issue, but, it's also underground infrastructure is more expensive to maintain in the long run. And we don't live in a settled area. I mean, Quincy downtown, everything is underground.
Mhm.
And started construction down there, they had to upgrade all the systems for potential new stuff coming in, which means they had to overbuild the utility system underground in Quincy downtown in anticipation of whatever comes down the road. Now, if we overbuild downtown, whether it be gas, electric, or telephone, or cable, then we would have to get the utility to change the systems around. So you're going to do underground, you have to future build.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a long, lengthy process, and around here, everything is already built. If you were virgin land somewhere in the Midwest, it would probably be easier.
Yeah, agreed. And also, you're also paying for this your electric bill. So electric bill already pay for existing infrastructure. To build new infrastructure, would cost quite a bit. So if you're already underground, we're not inclined to move it above ground. If we're already above ground, you'll move it underground. I was in the AG's office, what feels like a lifetime ago now. I got the unfortunate consumer case to deal with a Cape Cod private development that's at the time just about 30 years old. Entirely underground utilities, privately owned, not public-private utilities, just privately owned. And they discovered, big surprise, they live by seawater. Everything started eating through, and everything was corroding. And this private development, it was all homes, like a condominium situation. And they discovered it was going to cost oodles of money for them to rip up the entire complex to go get the utilities out of their place. So that's kind of the funny thing there. And they wanted to have the state or the utility take over those infrastructure. And no one wants the infrastructure. No one's going to pay for broken infrastructure.
Right. Yeah.
So, I mean, that homeowners association is going to have to deal with trying to figure out at some point down the road before the whole thing corrodes, how they're going to spend oodles of money to dig up the complex, put in new stuff, rip out old stuff. And you can't, it's not like just replacing. You actually have to lay down the new stuff before you can take out the old stuff.
Probably be easier just to abandon the current system and bring the public utility in overhead.
Yeah, but then they still have to pay for that because the rate shouldn't pay for a private development infrastructure project because they haven't been paying their share of the infrastructure.
Right. Yep. Interesting, the inner workings of these utilities.
Yeah, no, I mean, clearly I'm in the wrong business. I should be doing energy consulting.
Let's talk about something that the state does have control, well, doesn't have control over, actually, revenue projections and collections.
Well, we have control over the estimates. We don't have control
over
anything else. Again, we're still projecting out a shortfall of about $1 billion, maybe, hopefully less. I'm obviously not that optimistic. But I mean, the 9C cuts the governor underwent in January, plus some financial moving around on things like Mass Health and other trust funds, should get us through this remaining fiscal cycle. And we're fortunate, maybe the projections are not as severe compared to actual ones we had in April, where about 40% of our revenue shows up in like 1 month.
All tax returns, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, we also do see negative revenue in the months of February, March in particular, particularly March, because no one wants to wait for their refunds.
Yeah, it's a figure of 260 million, I think, for January.
Yeah, you're going to see more of that. The number will grow because people, again, don't wait for the refunds. I mean, why would you loan the government money to a tax state, right?
Right.
So,
Yeah, so more's going out than coming in.
well, yeah, correct. That's the reality. So we'll see how it plays out. I mean, I'm hoping that the projections, are not as dire. But I mean, taking a much more conservative approach to FY25 is very much needed. I mean, Ways and Means have started the hearings. We've seen, obviously you see State House News, and the hearings have already started. And we'll see what the different government agencies have to say to justify their requests pursuant to the governor's budget. So, this is going to take about, for 6, 8 weeks of hearings. And then, of course, Ways and Means in both branches are going to take individual meetings with the members, plus individual caucuses and other, groups inside the State House, plus their standard meetings with, outside special interests. And obviously, I already started getting phone calls of, various interest groups want to see me, ranging from people with prostate cancer to brain injury to Head Start. And it goes on and on and on. So, again, as I said earlier in the show, my schedule planning is always a bit of a disaster this time of year because it's just barely getting 2 weeks in front of me, much less try to do 4 weeks. And of course, you can't always predict when you're not going to feel well, which just complicates. And of course, because of this medium we're using now in video, I can actually, in a pinch of not doing good, I can sniff and cough my way through a meeting without affecting anybody else in this format of this, like, we have to do it. So the idea of conventional sick days really is over.
I know. Yeah, it's almost like snow days for public schools.
Oh, that's coming. Oh, yeah, that's coming. I mean, you're not going to, see snow days. I mean, obviously I'm completely incapacitated. I had a fever with this thing. And can't move is one thing, but if you kind of like, muscle through it sitting at home, people were to tolerate, your illness while watching on video. You can watch presentations, you can do PowerPoints, you can do all that. In this medium, I mean, people will do it.
Mhm.
But, and I don't have sick day and vacation days like regular folks. I mean, the schedule is mine to determine. So it's not like, if I lose the job, I get paid out of the sick days, right? I don't get sick days as part of was actually not very generous. Only 10% of your sick time goes to pension calculation. But you don't get paid out. So, your choice is that you either try to muscle through it, you postpone it, or you just keep going. But I mean, the time off is, up to me to decide, how to make time off. And I'm not good at that. But I have been making more effort to not go to work ill, even though I can do this like now. Or I gotta find time for myself. So as I do age, as I tell everybody, if you want to, do this job or any job longer, you gotta make more time to take care of yourself so you can, extend your lifespan in this profession. Put aside reelection. I mean, you still gotta be, healthy to do the job you want to do.
Mm. Are there any special projects in the budget that might be impacted here in Quincy, Jackie?
Well, I mean, the biggest hit, the single hit was the presidential library project the mayor
Oh,
wants. Right? That took a 50% shave to quarter million dollars from $500,000. Right? A lot of our earmarks are probably going to be trimmed back as well. But obviously our core programs we're very concerned about. I mentioned Head Start, English language learners classes. The Council on Aging, the public library. We're not going to touch local aid in Chapter 70 education, but we may cap the unrestricted money we give to the city that you can do whatever they want with. We may cap it as opposed to just giving you infinite lottery money. We may keep some of the lottery money for ourselves. So I mean, people have gotten comfortable, especially during the COVID period, with all those oodles of money from the feds, plus the fact that none of us expected wage inflation to be so insane that income tax revenues got blown out. And of course, the lottery was extremely powerful again. But the times do change. People shouldn't expect 9% wage increase, right? That affects your income tax collection,
mm,
right? So as wages start to come down in terms of inflation, it's still up, but hopefully it'll level out. I mean, it changes how we look at future collection. And, I was talking to the speaker about this. This starting to remind me a lot of the '08 financial crisis where, for 3 years, '08 to 11, nothing was going on. People lost money. There was deflation on prices. CPI was moving the wrong way. You never want negative CPI. You want at least some kind of minuscule growth, even if it's minuscule, but never negative. And then, we started having recovery around 2012, 13, but tax revenues were flat, even though unemployment was steadily going down and economic development activity was starting again. And it's largely because, while people were getting jobs, wage growth was still very slow. It wasn't meeting the economists' expectations of lower unemployment equals higher wages.
Yeah, there's been some speculation that the revenue loss is the result, partially at least, of the new millionaires tax and folks, pulling out of the state because of that. What do you think about that?
Not really, because right now the Ramirez tax, looks like it's going to hit its $1 billion expectation and stuff. We're kind of putting in optional stuff that we again didn't want to bake that into the main part of the budget because of unpredictability. And the governor's projecting 0.1, 0.2 billion from 1 billion, and that's on top of their existing tax payments. That's just the bonus money, not the baseline tax. The surcharge. But my always gauge is that if people are moving out of Massachusetts in droves, they gotta be renters because home sales continue to be very tight and home prices are very high. When people are unloading their homes because they're leaving the state, means that there should be a ton of property opening up. So you get everyone getting out of here as a renter, or people are just holding on to their homes because of high valuation. They're willing to pay the property taxes and a higher valuation means they have a higher capacity to leave. They may not have a glorious home in Florida, but they're not willing to lose their equity just yet because once the market shifts and lower rates in 2 years, home sales are going to go bonky.
Yep.
And as a result, your home worth $1 million could be worth $3 million in 2026.
That's right. Yeah, it's people are just watching and waiting, I think, for sure. There's incredible pent-up demand right now in the housing market for sure.
Capital gains is two formats. I mean, the passive income, stock income, right, from the markets, which is right now heating up pretty good in the end of last year going to this year. And the other part of capital gains, which is a big part of our budget, it's not part of the budget, it goes to the rainy day fund. We'd actually never see money. But, going to rainy day fund is home sales.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, home sales, are not gangbusters right now. But home valuations are still grossly high. And if people are leaving the state, you expect a glut of homes, even if it's a high income area, is coming on market. But it reflected in the overall price structure, either leveling out or move into negative territory in home valuations. Even if it's just a high income area selling out, that's not the case right now.
Right. No, and now 2024, the estate tax has gone up from $1 million to $2 million as well. So that would be a further incentive if they wanted to sell.
That's correct. And we baked into next year's budget, the increase in the senior circuit breaker. So if you're over 65 and you meet certain income guidelines, whether you're a renter or property owner, definitely, look at the senior circuit breaker, the senior circuit break, yes, CB, C as in cat, B as in break, form that you can get on the Department of Revenue website. Obviously, you can call my office if you'd like to get a paper copy in the mail. We can print them and make a printout for you and send it to your home. But I mean, even if you don't pay taxes, please, if you're over 65 and over, definitely look at the opportunity and see if you qualify. I know that my colleagues on the show with you and Mark, was it just Mark last week? It should be
not even Mark. It was just the speaker and Bruce and Brian Lynch from the DOR.
Oh, I'm sorry. This is the speaker's special hosting day.
Yes.
So yeah, the speaker had his own hosting day. So yeah, they had a good show up, and I noticed that on QA TV you had another program on the same issue. So resources are available through QA TV on Senior Circuit Breaker. We are an older community. People may not realize that. And, it doesn't matter if you're a renter or a homeowner. You can qualify this if you meet certain income guidelines and meet certain qualifications. The big one is that if you take subsidized senior housing, if you take any kind of subsidy to have senior housing, you automatically don't qualify.
Right. Yeah. But I mean, yeah, it could be over $1,000 that you could save. So it's well worth looking into.
Actually, it's 2,400.
Is it really?
2,400 is I think 2,500 is the minimum.
Okay.
I'm sorry, yeah, the maximum. 2,500 I think is the maximum this year. So
Wow.
you could potentially, correct. You could probably get like a few hundred, but I'm going to tell you, most people in this city is probably going to be close to 2,000.
Yeah, I mean, that's significant. That's not chump change, that could really help somebody stay in their home.
Yeah, it's a tax credit. Tax credit means cash. Cash goes in your pocket.
Right.
And it's not taxable because
Right.
you're not making income guidelines now. It's very unlikely you're going to meet income guidelines with an extra 2 grand in your pocket because most people that qualify would likely be on a pension that's outdated in terms of cost of living, or you're on Social Security. So unless you have like this mini fortune hidden someplace, or revenue income that's generating, I think it's you have to get like 80 grand as a couple. I mean, it's pretty substantial.
Wow. Okay.
I think it's 200 or 400% of federal poverty. So it's you need to make good money.
Yeah. Yeah. Well worth looking into, for sure. It costs you nothing to find out.
Yeah, we do some increases of the dependency of parents and children. That credit went up. So obviously remember that when you fill out your tax forms, if you have a dependent you care for more than 50% of the time of that person's needs, as well as you have children, we didn't increase that. So that'll help out families a little bit this year as well. And earn income tax credit if you meet certain income guidelines, that can be very beneficial. Definitely remember to do that. What I'm basically saying is that you leave no tax deduction / credit unturned.
Yeah, I mean, if you're entitled to it, to absolutely take advantage of it for sure.
Yeah, and the majority is designed for working families, right? It's not the uber wealthy getting it. It's working families. And even we get criticism for the state tax, but you're living in Quincy, you know how much your property's worth. You're very aware there's a $1 million state tax, and it wasn't even a deduction. It's just that you get over a million, you have to we tax the whole thing.
Mhm.
Doubling it to 2 million and making a tax deductible. Even people in Quincy are aware that it doesn't take a lot anymore on your property to make sure reach $1 million. I mean, you look at the assessed value on your property taxes. That's 1 year look back. It's not the current year.
That's
So
right.
it doesn't take a brain surgeon for you guys to all figure out that if you're sitting at 750,000 assessed value, you go to open market, it's not 750,000, and in a few years' time, we'll crack a million.
Hmm. Yep.
I mean, state tax really is towards working people. I get a lot of criticism saying it's just for the rich, but have you guys looked at your state tax bill? I mean, your property tax bill, and see what the assessed value is? I mean, you can kind of figure it out on your own.
Right. No, exactly. And the market value is always higher than that anyway.
Yeah, and your state taxes on the end is against the market value when the home is sold, or the value that's the current day. And like I said, your property taxes assessment's 1 year look back because you can't get the current year until the current year ends. But that's not when the property tax was set in December. They have to rely on the year prior.
Right. Exactly. I want to talk a little bit about the national scene, Jackie. What's going on in Washington?
No, dysfunctionality continues. It's actually quite frightening when it's very clear that, in particular, the Republican Party, cannot uh, operate, as an independent functioning elected. I mean, for better or for worse, there's a guy that's been around politics a lot, and I guess you guys know I like watching this stuff, not just be a participant these days. You should have confidence in your voter base, and you should have confidence in both your primaries and in your final elections regarding the needs of your constituencies and the messaging to ensure that you're able to win re-election. Uh, it is people may disagree with it, but it's very clear that if you have a bipartisan deal in the Senate and the Republicans bail out because a contender for president says to bail out, are they really working for the constituencies anymore? And I'm not a guy that likes to renege. I don't believe in reneging. I believe in renegotiation, right? Renegotiation is one thing, but reneging is another. And they reneged. I mean, O'Connell's out there with Schumer and a bunch of bipartisan team, put together a deal, and all of us been crying at the local level, like, why can't you work together, bipartisan to demonstrate to do it? And then the Republicans back out, and they couldn't even get like a couple Republicans to turn over because it's such a tight margin anyway in the Senate. But you have the filibuster rule, so you need to get like 60 votes to avoid the filibuster rule, and they couldn't, get even the full bipartisan part of the Republican side to, that cut the deal, and now they reneged.
Mhm.
I mean, how do you trust these folks? I mean, this is a gig where, your name is on the line regarding your word. And, last time I checked, they work for their own constituencies. So, somebody's running for president says you shouldn't do this, and they do it. I mean, who are you working for? I mean, this is quite concerning. And and I mean, I've never seen this before, to be honest with you. A candidate, not a sitting president, that leads your party saying, don't do this. I've never seen something like this. And again, we also this kind of like impeachment has become a political weapon for fundraising. Let's call it what it is. I mean, particularly now, and they couldn't get a majority for the resolution to impeach the what's this Homeland Security Secretary.
So Mayorkas, yeah.
And I mean, it shows the weakness of the Republican caucus, and the Republicans that voted against weren't exactly called the moderate side of the Republican Party. They were actually on the conservative side. And the concept of practicality side is setting in with some of these folks that, regardless of political ideology, I mean, all you're doing is scoring political points as opposed to actually trying to get something done. So why are you spinning your wheels, sending something to the Senate that you know it's going to go anywhere, for other than you're going to use it as a fundraising opportunity? I mean, welcome to tacky cynicism.
No, but you're right, though. It is fascinating to watch, from the sidelines, how a single individual can put a stranglehold on an entire political party.
Yeah, it is very, very concerning, right? I mean, the idea that one person who came out of nowhere that was never a member of the party to begin with, right, just popped out of the blue 8 years ago, and it's like, took over the party. And you have to be really afraid of your inability to win a primary in your state, which means that you did a bad job,
Mm.
laying down the base of your reelection, and also, delivering for people at home,
Mhm.
and, also being a leader in your political party in your home state. You are that weak as an elected to, particularly long term, just senators, 6 year terms. It isn't like a 2 year gig like us, which takes a long time to build up reputation and constant reelections to constantly prove it. You got a 6 year term to build your base out. You're that weak at home that you're afraid of a presidential candidate, that you would listen to a presidential candidate as well as proving your strength. I mean, working Democratic politics here, every time it's a primary, whether you're running for statewide office or congressional office, state reps and state senators are pretty important. Yeah, because obviously we're closer to the ground than someone that's in DC.
Mhm.
They're every 2 or 4 years or 6 years, depending on what cycle we're in, conversation occurs. And obviously, when I first got elected, my relevance wasn't really important. Let's be honest about it, folks, right? Even though I've been campaigning in Quincy my adult life before I got elected, as I've gained seniority, people running for statewide office, does like give me a phone call and see what I think.
Mhm.
A 6 year senator. I
Yeah,
mean,
you really should have your act together by then.
one would think, yes. I mean, I get it. I do get it. But I mean, you got a 6 year senator. I mean, it's not like being a 2 year gig like us, where you're taking a lot of time to not just secure your seat, but also, work for reelection, plus, constantly needing to demonstrate your worth, plus, obviously try to build seniority. Seniority takes longer in 2 year terms. And also, inside the party structure, demonstrate that you're relevant because you'll be able to stay in your seat long enough to have seniority.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see if a fringe third party is able to move in and become more influential than it ever has in the past.
Well, this is like the Joe Stein effect, right? Or the Ross
Yeah.
Perot effect, right? Those who remember the Ross
Yep.
Perot effect. Well, he didn't win any electoral college
Yep.
votes. He was able to split the Republican Party up enough in certain states to give Bill Clinton an edge. Well, that's what people believe. And I think there's a bit of truth to that. You know, the question of Joe Stein, right? The Green Party guys, can they pull off enough libertarians and liberals to really screw around with both political parties, you know, in the final count? The answer is kind of yes, kind of no. I mean, it
Right.
depends on the state you're living in. That end of the very left and the very libertarian end of the party, because libertarians sometimes are in both political parties. Depends on where you are. Every state is different. I told you everybody's politics is different, and what
Mhm.
think of a DNR in Massachusetts may not be a DNR in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
So
That's true.
so it's not that set in stone. Every state has a different quirk regarding the ideologies. So, um, but yeah, I mean, that's a legit question about these other third party candidates, and you got some independents like RFK is still floating out there,
Yep.
and you
So all
saw
that,
yeah, you saw the primary numbers for Biden so far. I mean, the state party electorate has decided very early on, we're going to stick with this horse until this horse goes away. So, I mean, these third party candidates, could muck up either party, but every state is a different political environment. That's why this is such a fascinating watching electoral politics, because what applies in Massachusetts doesn't apply someplace else.
yeah, we do live in a bit of a bubble up here. That's for sure. We're kind of insulated from a lot of the infighting.
Yeah, and most of us, know something about a battleground state, but even if it's a state that's clearly leaning to one political party or another, I mean, it isn't a monolith. I say that's constant,
Oh yeah.
right? Every region of the country has different people, which have different thoughts, different matters, and different priorities, which creates different ways they vote, and which party or individuals they want to support. And some places still have, actually, a lot of places have partisan local elections, unlike Massachusetts, where you're running as a party elected on either side.
Even
Um,
for mayor or city councilor. Yeah.
yeah, and some states, have extremely powerful county government.
Hmm.
They run the elections, as you all seen in certain states too. So, I mean, those elected positions in county government are critical, not
Hmm.
just because of elections, but they run a lot of the local infrastructure, right?
Yep.
County sheriff's office, they run the DPW. I mean, and they,
California is a prime example of that. Yeah.
yeah, most of Florida,
Yep.
most of the Midwest, and you pay county taxes. No one talks about this stuff, right? You
Right.
pay fees and taxes to county, so it may be in a state where there's no income tax, but stuff's getting built. So who you paying, right? And it's often the county that's in charge of that level of the infrastructure.
Yep. States' rights. It's right in the U.S. Constitution, right? States have their own rights.
Yeah, and some states have very high sales tax, low income tax, high sales tax. So you don't have either one, but it's the buck is passed to the municipality, but a county to do the work that the state does. That our state's a very powerful state regarding operations of infrastructure, but some state governments don't do any.
Right. What? Yeah. People talk about New Hampshire. No income tax, but I mean, property taxes are huge in New Hampshire.
Yeah, and they're very dependent on federal money for infrastructure.
Hmm.
So, I mean, in terms of the major highway systems, I mean, they it's a lot of Fed money. And
Mhm.
gas tax, I believe, was hiked because they need to be able to match due to federal matches.
Hmm. Interesting.
So while gas may seem a bit lower up there, I mean, if you look at the ratio of the gas tax versus the tax versus their gas is actually pretty substantial. They need the money to match the Fed money.
Right. Otherwise, yeah, the well goes dry pretty quickly without that.
Yeah, and then they can't pay for it themselves. You're either going to jack the gas tax monstrous or come up with another tax structure against the population, or you increase your tolls. They have toll roads too.
Hmm.
So, of course, states have no income tax, no sales tax. So you got to find other money somewhere, particularly federal match. And,
Mhm.
and also they have bond debt. And again, like all states and cities and towns and all government agencies, you want to make sure your debt payments, don't far exceed the size of your budget.
Yeah. Yeah. This morning, the governor announced Techie the investment of like $50 million into EV charging stations to encourage folks to go electric. Think that's going to help?
Kind of yes, kind of no. I mean, there's got to be a strategy on EV charging. I mean, EV mileage anxiety is a real thing. You don't get that like hidden half gallon of gas when the needle hits zero in your car. People who've come close to the end realize there's just a little bit extra at the bottom on purpose relative to the size of the needle, to ensure you can somehow get to a gas station, kind of urges you to get there. EVs are very, very accurate. When you say you got 300, you only got 300. But if you run the air conditioning and your heating system and the radio and plugging your cell phone, that sucks battery time out. So your 300 miles may be 250 depending on the circumstances, right? And you don't get kind of the same mileage benefit, on highway. Generally, cars on gas is much more efficient on highways than it is on local roads because the computer system in the car fuel injector is able to determine exactly how much you need. Gas cars are super efficient on maximizing your gasoline. I mean, it's by design now. It's not it's a necessity. So charging stations need to be strategically placed in areas where there's a lot of electric cars to be able to reduce fuel anxiety, and having much more speedier type 2 and 3 charging stations reduce your charge time to less than 15 minutes to get at least enough what you need where you need to go. Excuse me, we know, but you also need to build out the electric grid so they can support it, which means they got to get more power for some place to support these charging stations. And the national grid, not national grid, Tesla has the turnpike ones, but there's also continuous maintenance, meaning someone's going to watch it. Unlike gas stations, we have gas attendants. These electric charging stations are just kind of there. If something doesn't work, it's like you can go into the gas attendant and say, look, we got a problem here, right? I mean, even self-stations have a gas attendant. It's a guy that actually worked a self-station at Beard's Mobile back, where the police station's going in with Stop and Shop. I used to work there as a college kid. I've done the whole self-service, and sometimes actually provide some service because anyone could figure out how to fill the gas tank up on their own. That's the thing. So, I mean, you can't, I think the misconception is you should jam these things everywhere. It's really about knowing where you got a high density electric vehicles because the Registry of Motor Vehicles has that data, trying to figure out, where they're going, which is hard because the government doesn't track the car movement.
Right. Yeah.
Having EV stations that are easily findable within the mileage anxiety zone. And as you all saw in Chicago, batteries drain in the winter, which is why I'm not anti-electric car, but people need to know what they're buying before they buy it. They work on the presumption that it operates like a gas vehicle. It's a totally different world. Totally different. And, if we ever have a -5 situation, which is Massachusetts, it can happen in different parts of the state, have different temperature changes. Yeah, you can have a dead battery.
Mm-hmm.
But, at least, I always can call AAA, get a jump start.
Right.
And then the fuel, gas car would generate electricity to fill up the battery. The battery is not defective or out of lifespan. I mean, you can run your car for 30 minutes on a gas engine and you have a fully charged battery. But if you're using an electric car, you're running a heating system, you're charging your cell phone, you're operating radio, you're operating your GPS, you're operating all these other devices, it drains your battery.
Who would own the charging stations? Would the state own them, or would they be leased?
You would have to contract them out.
Okay.
Because we'll be responsible for installation, maintenance, and charging.
Yeah.
So the economic model for charging station is that they'll pay rent to the landowner, and then they can arrange some kind of fee, on each charge. The risk for the charging station company is that if no one shows up, you're still paying rent to the property owner.
Right.
So it's responsible for the maintenance, and and then they actually have to hook up the grid, so it has to have its own separate meter.
Okay.
Because you're not getting free electricity, folks. You're paying the electric. You're paying like you're paying an electric bill plus the fee associated for the company to do business. So whatever the profits need to make, maintaining the system, paying the landlord, et cetera, on top of the price of the electricity. People have gotten used to that. You have a workplace. You just plug it into your workplace. You're basically taking power from your employer or a garage. But that is not the future. The future is, private companies like Tesla is probably going to be the dominant force, I suspect. And they're going to have a universal plug because you can't have 4 different plugs. That's inefficient. And then, they're going to have to, charge you whatever their fixed if they use competitive supply, the fixed rate of electrical cost or variable cost if they don't have fixed electrical supply. So by the time you get to the charging station, there may be a fluctuation if it's variable. And then, the cost of doing business on top of that, and it's going to be charged per kilowatt.
And is it a simple matter of use your credit card to buy your electricity right there?
Yeah, I mean, it's a credit card station, but I mean, these companies also have apps, so which you create an account.
Oh, I see.
And so when you get there, you can charge card the whole thing through your app once you get to the charging station. And like I said, the charging station doesn't work. You have this kind of weird mileage anxiety will sit in. And if you go like to a 7-Eleven and there's a charging station, the 7-Eleven attendant doesn't know what to do because that's not their charging station.
Right. Yep. Yep.
So it's you can tell I kind of pay attention to stuff a little bit. My operational theory is always that, big gas companies and oil companies, should try to encourage their franchisees to, build a charging station system. I'm not quite sure that's going to happen yet. I mean, high electrical voltage in your gasoline is kind of like not for everyone, and not every gas station is the same size. So this is a bit of a problem. I mean, if you're like a Cumberland Farms mini market, like you do in the corner of Southern Artery and Washington Street, you got that monster mini market. There's plenty of extra space there. You probably could put a high voltage wire in and put a charging station on the other side, far from the gas tanks themselves. I mean, it's not impossible. But not every gas station has sufficient footprint.
Right, your little neighborhood mom and pop station probably couldn't do that. Yeah.
Yeah, like the little prime stations on Hancock Street.
Yeah.
They don't have. They're not going to have enough space to add a electrical charging station. Have that electrical charging station far away. You see the video of the last night on the news with the car that crashed through the gas tank.
Oh yeah, in Rosendale, I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah, the thing burst in flames, and the system's designed as soon as top of the gas station filling component's gone, the bottom part shuts off. It's automated.
Right.
Literally just shuts the whole thing down, the whole gas station down, reduce possible explosion. I was a little surprised how long it took for the foam to go off.
I was too. I thought that was almost instantaneous, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, should have been under 1 second. It would detect any kind of change, and the thing just goes off as a safety matter. Just uber foam the whole thing.
Yeah.
Safety feature. But I mean, that's a concern, right? If you have electrical charging station too close to that kind of circumstance, which is very rare, you've got a problem. So if you're going to do this at a gas station, you got to have the thing segregated out in a manner where the high wire electrical system isn't near that. And if you crash into an electrical charging station, again, it should have the same cutoff.
Right. Yep. Interesting. It's still it's really in its infancy still, but we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, there are companies out there. I mean, it's not like there aren't charging companies out there, but again, it's the economic model is the only way they can make money. The model I just described, unless you get a state contract in a pike. But even then, you all know, if everyone's a busy time, everyone's filling up at the same time, you have the same wait period.
Yep.
So your charging stations need to be in a manner where you have efficiency of movement. So I mean, gas stations are designed that you go in one side, you come up the other.
Right.
They treat charging stations like parking lots where you pull in, you park. That you really need to change that too. You got to treat it more of as like you do gas stations pass through. It's more efficient for movement of people to get in and out. I mean, the idea is you're going to leave your charger in, you're going to walk into the store for 15 minutes or whatever. But if the charging stations are moving faster and faster to 10 minutes below, you need to have more like a gas station style where you come in, you pull in, you charge, you get out, and just keep the cars moving through. But again, this is a space factor.
Right. Yeah. Chinese New Year coming up.
Year of the Dragon. So those of you born a year of dragon are considered charismatic, outgoing, adventurous, willing to give new things a go. People are attracted to dragons because of those very positive qualities. They sometimes take a little too many risks and sometimes a little bit too arrogant because of their desire to try new things and tends to be a little bit more of a go outside their comfort zone. How's that sound?
Okay, risk taker.
Yeah, but doing it with a smile. So A dragon, again, is the only mythical creature in the Chinese zodiac. All the other zodiac creatures are actual animals you can find in real life. It's the only one that's not. And you can read online plenty of websites regarding the zodiac expectations for the coming year and the matchup against different animals, whether it be friendship, romance, or finances. Right? There's all these predictions, and of course, I believe it's a wood dragon. The Chinese have five elements: fire, water, earth, wood, and metal.
Hmm.
So I believe it's a wood dragon. So the zodiac has a little more complexity. If you want to get really complicated, it looks at your birth time, what hour of birth to just add to the zodiac calculation, which I'm not that interested in. But the five elements are kind of fun to read too.
It's interesting. Yeah.
The sub elements also describe the qualities of a person, plus also how to interact with other elemental animals.
Hmm.
See what your interactions are, and also matchmaking. So Lunar Year is this Saturday the 10th. New Year's Eve is the evening of the 9th. And it's, the Chinese restaurants should be quite busy. People are trying to get out, and the Chinese businesses, anyone that's Lunar New Year will be closed for 2 days. So people need to get the shopping in before sundown. And during these 2 days, New Year's is actually mostly a 2-week event. Into the Lantern Festival, which you don't see in this country. In other Chinatowns around the world, they still practice the Lantern Festival. And in places like China, they close for a week. It's a week holiday.
Mm-hmm.
It's also the busiest time of year, probably in the area of 6 or 7 million people in China now trying to get home to their families.
Wow, that's incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a massive snowstorm out there. So,
Oh, jeez.
yeah, people are going to be a little late. It looks like trying to get home. Everything's snarled on both the roads and the rail. So, but it's not just here. I mean, when Japanese celebrate Lunar New Year, Koreans do it, the Vietnamese do it, the Laotians do it. It's not unusual. And obviously, a global thing. There's a lot of different Asian ethnic groups around the country, and they have different sized New Year's. Chinatown obviously would do something, weather permitting, which looks like it'd be good weather. But you go to like Toronto, there's a million Chinese folks living in that lower area of Quebec to Toronto, and they have a lot of places New Year celebrations. So it's also a good time for folks to spend time with family. It's a big part of New Year's, and it is the largest holiday of Chinese people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's a clean out holiday too, right, Jackie? It's out with the old and in with the new.
It is. It's an opportunity to buy new clothes. Get rid of old clothes. It's a time to clean your house out. It's a new refresh.
Yeah.
So not surprising you do that. And everyone always asks me about things like the little red envelopes. I mean, the lucky money. Generally, the older generation passes lucky money to the younger generation. You hold on to it for a year, hoping it multiplies. And then we have a lot of symbolism. Right? Red is a color of celebration, and gold is symbolized by the tangerines and the oranges you see. And obviously, you're going to eat something. You want something golden, like you want your chicken to have golden skin, right? Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of symbolism involved. And of course, you pay respects to your elders. So as a kid, I still remember, Dad would yank us up first in the morning. We're making the run around to see all of my dad's older friends. And then we all have to wish a new year. It was customary.
Here in Quincy Asian Resources, celebration is the 18th, 11 a.m. at North Quincy High School.
Yep, it's been there forever, actually. Chinese New Year's been there. And they do a great job at Quincy Asian Resources, was the North Quincy High kids and the Quincy High kids. Excuse me. As well as, many volunteers and corporate sponsors. Regretfully, this will be the first one I'll miss. Actually, I missed the one in 2020 because I had the flu, not COVID. Before we had COVID was the thing, but I had a bad case of the flu. I had a 4-day fever. But sadly, I'll be missing this one. I'll be on vacation. It's going to be my first February vacation since 2003. It's been a long time since I've been away in February. So I'll be someplace a little bit warmer. I won't tell you all where, but I need a break. So regretfully, the timing was poor when I booked my tickets because, I didn't know when it was exactly before I booked my tickets.
Right. Yeah.
But I mean, it should be about 5,000 plus people during the course of the day.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it's free admission too. So, it's a great way to get in touch with your community.
Yeah, and it's a move through. People come in, people
Mhm.
come. So, I encourage people to go. Like I said, I've gone to a lot of these in my lifetime, but every year it grows, it evolves, it changes, and it constantly adjusts. It's one of those events where every year they do a little bit of tweak. If you've gone to enough of these, you can see the small tweaks here and there to make it better.
Mm. Yeah. Actually, there'll be Lion Dance festivals at the library this coming weekend. One at the main branch and one up at North Quincy on Saturday.
And you're going to see more of these in businesses too. A lot of businesses over the next 2 or 3 weeks will have lion dances coming through to wish them luck and drive away evil spirits as part of the tradition. So
Mhm.
during this time period, you have a lot of martial arts and other cultural arts groups doing performances and lion dances, dragon dances to do their depending on community, and you're going to see these little like you send your kids to dance school, right? They do a big thing during the holiday, right? Again, spinning back to COVID, this was all lost for basically almost more than 2 years actually, and that's why the Asian Caucus, pushed for grant programs for cultural grants for some of these folks to try to get them through the rough period that weren't always considered as part of small businesses.
Right,
So,
right.
but now things have changed, and it's good to see a lot of the uh, events come back, as well as these small businesses being able to generate some extra income during this time of year.
Sure. Let's let folks know how to get a hold of you, Techie.
Yeah, we're 617-722-2370, 617-722-2370. As I mentioned earlier, particularly when tax season coming up, you want to need a form or two, definitely call our office. We're happy to print it out and throw in the mail for you. Um, you can email me at tacky.chan at mahouse.gov, tackey.chan at mahouse.gov. My email box is starting to set a little bit because the last 2 weeks people are trying to promote their bills to get out as I'm trying to sort through it, but and we're in a slow zone for a little while. At Tacky Chan on X, as you pointed out, you saw me on State Representative Tacky Chan Facebook, so you can see my comings and goings. And of course, tackychan.org is the resource page. You can obviously use the form there to reach out to me. And we're here with QATV. And we have a MUlegislature.gov. You can look up the result of your bills. The clerk's office should have things processed in the next 2 to 4 weeks on the outcome of your bills coming out of committee. Calling me doesn't always help because all the committees are still, all processed the paperwork yesterday. So, obviously you can call the committee directly, but it'll be online within 2 to 4 weeks. So you can find out what happened to your bills. And, as I said, spend time with Joe and I if you care to, but also listen to Joe in the morning for your 5 to 10 minute brief of what's going on in the city and nationally that you may not catch on local and national news. And the fun thing about QATV is that we talk about stuff that and insights you won't get anywhere else.
That's right. And there's no commercials.
Well, we can put a plug in for this and that, but yeah, this is a not for profit.
That's right. Thanks a lot, Techie. Hope you're continue to be on the mend.
Thank you, Joe. I'll catch you next week.